2, 1, go.
So hello, this is me. I'm Miles, and I'm going to teach you how to do the law of cosine. So the formula for the law of cosines is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of a. Now there are 3 of these, and each one of these can be used in a different scenario. So all you gotta know is that it has to be like something around here. It just has to be side, and then you have to have 2 of the sides and then an angle, and that's how you figure it out. So for this, we have 2 sides, 200, 300, and then we have the angle 80. So we would just plug it into the formula. And this would change. So if you have different, you can change it. You can do b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine of b. Just make sure that this one and this one are the same thing. So you have to have the angle. So this has to be the side with the angle. So that's how it would work. And so, but you could also use it. It doesn't, so if you had like a triangle, you could find one of the sides and then find the other side by using law of cosine as well. But you have to have 2 sides to do law of cosine. You can't just have one side. So you could use law of sines and then law of cosines if you really wanted to. And so I'm just going to use whichever one. I honestly don't really look at like the letters, because you just have to have 2 sides and you have to just know what you're talking about or what you're doing. So what would happen is this would be x squared equals 300 squared plus 200 squared minus, minus 2, 300, 200. I messed up because it's too low, but you know, and then just cosine of 80. So after that, so since everything is kind of on this side instead of having like one over here, you can just plug it all into a calculator. I'm just going to use Desmos. I'm going to use 300 squared. I'm going to put it in parentheses to make it good. 300 squared plus 200 squared minus 300 times 200. Oops. 300. Where's 0? There we go. And then 200. And then we would just plug in cosine of 80. And that would be a very, very big number. It'll be 91,000. That'll be a lot more than 1,000. Well, it'll be 143,246 point. Let's just go with 5. And after that, you would have to get x just by itself. So you would take the square root of each side. So just take that number. So you do 143,246, and you take the square root of that. So I kind of messed up. Yep. Oops. So the square root of 143,246.5, and that gave me 378.5. And that would be how you would find x here. And that's how you do it. Now this formula, you can really, if you really wanted to, you can go between going a sine and cosine. But sine has its benefits and cosine has its things. Usually you can only use sine if you have 2 angles. So let's say if I, instead of having like 300, I had like, this would be a 20, then I would have to use sines, and I couldn't use cosines because I have to have 2 sides that are definite to get cosine, or to use cosine. But for cosine, you would have to use you would have to have 2 sides instead. And if you don't, you wouldn't be able to use it, since you have to have 2 definite sides. And if you can't use sine, because if you use sine, then you wouldn't be able to, since you don't have two angles, and since the formula would require two angles